Well, greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome back to tonight's second half. Before we get into it, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and my merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. The links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. My merch is displayed directly under this video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons. Narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe, click the like button, and please leave a comment. It really does help. And guys, it definitely matters. And now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with tonight's second half, shall we? Alright guys, so I have been working diligently on the video evidence of my paranormal research at the Conjuring house. I am piecing together the video as we speak. Well, not right now, obviously, but I needed to take a break and kind of wanted to put this out because, well, I want the video of the upload of the video evidence to be as best as I can for you guys. Also, I want to share with you guys the truths of the Conjuring house. There are a lot of made-up stories about the Conjuring house. Whether it be Hollywood, YouTube creators are notorious for this. And it's honestly disgusting that so many people that talk about this house don't share the real truths. The house and property have a dark history. There is no need to fabricate anything about this house. And I blame Hollywood. And I blame view-hungry YouTubers, especially, for the confusion and the untruths about the Conjuring house. Tonight's video, I am going to dispel as many of those untruths as I can and share the actual history and events presently known. Let's get into it. What is false and or there is no evidence of at the Conjuring house? There are no records indicating multiple deaths by suicide on this property. The only known questionable death is Jarvis Smith, who was discovered deceased by the Butterworth family that was living at the farm at the time. There is no evidence that Bathsheba Sherman ever lived or was associated with this house. There is no evidence, nor was there an inquest of a suspicious death of an infant by a needle in the back of its skull. It is true that Bathsheba lost 2 children at a young age. But Bathsheba actually had a honorable Christian burial. She was not this witch that all of these people claim she was. She didn't commit these horrendous crimes that Hollywood and view-hungry YouTubers, and I may be calling out really big YouTubers on this, but I looked at the owner, Jacqueline, and I said, can I please share the truth that you're sharing with me today? And she said, yes. view-hungry YouTubers lie. And the truth is what matters. So Bathsheba Sherman was buried in a Christian burial service honorably. She never committed any murders, nor was there an inquest about it. One of the biggest lies right there. There is no evidence that a Mrs. John Arnold hung herself in the barn. There is no evidence that Prudence Arnold ever lived or was associated with this house. What we do know, this is a piece of colonial history that is part of the founding of the state of Rhode Island, as it began in 1636, known as Providence Plantations. Providence Plantations was the first permanent European-American settlement in the colony of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations. It was established by a group of colonists led by Roger Williams and Dr. John Clark, who left Massachusetts Bay Colony in order to establish a colony with greater religious freedom. In fact, Roger Williams and his followers were excommunicated from the Mass Bay Colony for their vocal beliefs and efforts to establish a separation between church and state in Massachusetts. Massachusetts would have none of it. Providence Plantations became the colony of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations, which became the state of Rhode Island after the American Revolution. Harrisville, Rhode Island, where the house is, was originally part of Gloucester and was established in 1639, just 3 years after Roger Williams founded Rhode Island's first settlement at Providence. The land was sold to Roger Williams and his associates by the leaders of a local Native American tribe who received payment that these leaders deemed satisfactory. Land of around 200 acres was deeded to the Richardson family, and first section of the house began in 1680. The house, the original part of the house was built some 94 years before the birth of our country. How incredible is that? During the King Philip's War, which is the bloodiest war in American history. The property had been passed down through 8 generations. As the family got bigger, the house got bigger. The house, as it is today, was completed in 1736, 40 years before the birth of our country. Since women were not allowed to own land, the property was transferred through a daughter to the husband and his surname. That is how it went from the Richardsons to the Arnolds in the 1800s, and then the Arnolds to the Butterworths, and then the Kenyons in the 1900s. One of the ghosts or apparitions that April Perron claimed to, I don't want to say be friends with, but communicated with, was a little boy named Oliver Richardson. Now on to the Perron family. So I just dispelled one of the biggest lies created by Hollywood and view-hungry YouTubers, Bathsheba Sherman. This is where, this next part is where we really clean up the dirty, dirty lies that Hollywood and the greedy, view-hungry YouTubers that everyone believes because they have millions of subs, and let's believe them because they have millions of subs. Well, what I'm sharing with you now is information that was shared to me by the owner of the property. The Perron family purchased the property in 1970, and they moved in January of 1971. Carolyn knew that she first saw the property that her and her family had to buy it. This house and the true story of the Perron family was depicted in the 2013 movie release The Conjuring. The movie was loosely based on their experiences. Loosely, key. The true story is much more harrowing and beautiful, as written about in Andrea Perron's trilogy of books, House of Darkness, House of Light. When they bought it, Mr. Earl Kenyon had been living there by himself after the passing of his wife. He was very fond of the Perrons, and they of him. In fact, the day that the Perrons moved in, Mr. Kenyon told Roger Perron, "For the sake of your family, keep the lights on at night." The day they moved in, the Perron girls all saw an older gentleman in the house who was dressed weird. However, according to Mr. Kenyon and the Perrons, there was nobody else in the home that day. The Perron family would later name the entity Manny. Throughout the next few months, Carolyn noticed a lot of strange things occurring. The girls would be playing with imaginary friends, which isn't uncommon, obviously. However, the two youngest daughters, Cindy and April, were constantly playing with a boy spirit named Oliver Richardson. Also, in one of the incidents, Carolyn was attacked by a hanger when she got out of the shower. The daughter Cindy was locked in a trunk at one point, and her bed would levitate at times. Roger was not home that often to see what Carolyn and the girls were experiencing. However, after a few malevolent encounters, one of which a scythe came off the wall of the barn and injured Carolyn's shoulder and ripped open the coat she was wearing, Carolyn insisted that they needed help. They responded to a local ad in the newspaper placed by Perron, which was a local college paranormal team ran by Keith and Carl Johnson. Ed and Lorraine Warren. Perron investigated the home in early July of 1973, and after a few visits, they decided to ask Ed and Lorraine Warren to come out and give their opinion on the house. So, in the movie, we see Carolyn going to a seminar hosted by Ed and Lorraine. That didn't happen. There was an ad in the paper, and Carolyn Perron responded to it, saying, "I need help, please come." The young men, Keith and Carl Johnson, felt this was too big of a job for them. And they knew of Ed and Lorraine. They knew of the Warrens, and they asked them for help. The Warrens first came to the property in August of 1973 by just showing up at their door. After making the determination that there was some type of malevolent spirit causing the problems, they took over the case as lead investigators. The Warrens believed that the house itself needed to be exorcised, not any specific individual in the household. So no individual needed an exorcism. The house did. Probably the property as well. In order to get permission for the rites of the exorcism to be performed, evidence must be presented to the Vatican showing definitive proof of the haunting. So, on Halloween, October 30th of 1973, Ed and Lorraine Warren came back to the home with another medium, a priest, and 2 videographers to conduct a seance. The entire Perron family was at home during the seance. However, only Roger and Carolyn were supposed to be present during the seance. The kids were supposed to be upstairs in their bedrooms. However, some of them were hiding in the stairwell watching. This is what we all see in the movies and where people talk about the basement. The events that we know where Carolyn had been levitated and thrown happened on the main floor in the seance room, which is what it's called, kind of like the middle room. There's like, you walk into the home and there's a parlor, the seance room off to the side, a library, a small hallway where the stairwell is, the kind of dining room area, and then a bathroom and kitchen off to the side of that. So they're having this seance in the seance room, hence why it's called the seance room now. During the seance, Carolyn Perron had an entity attached to her. Throughout the course of the seance, it became so aggressive it levitated the table that they were sitting at, and as the table slammed back to the ground, Carolyn was thrown backwards out of her chair and into the adjoining room. Everyone who witnessed Carolyn's attack thought it had killed her, including Roger, who immediately got up to check on her. Ed Warren grabbed Roger by the arm and told him she was possessed, and if he was to touch her, he would be in just as much danger. Roger, being more concerned for his wife than anything, got into a physical altercation with Ed Warren, after which he forced the Warrens and their entourage to leave and never to return to the house. He pretty much cold-cocked him. The Warrens left the property. They weren't even sure that Carolyn was alive. She was, though, thankfully. The Perrons continued to live in the home until the summer of 1980, when they decided to leave the property for fear of Carolyn Perron's life. So there was no magical saving by the Warrens like the movies show. The Warrens were amazing people. They really did bring the paranormal to the forefront for people to know. You know, it was being accepted back then. But they did that great thing by doing, by bringing this to our attention. Hey, this is what's going on, this, and that. But in reality, the Warrens did not save the Perron family. Huge lie by Hollywood and by a lot of content creators. Ownership. Nancy Perron and her boyfriend at the time stayed on as caretakers until the home was sold, which it was sold a few months later to the Schwartz. Norma Sutcliffe bought the house from the Schwartz and lived there for 18 years. She ran a daycare center there. Corey and Jan Heinzen purchased the property in 2019, and launched the business that we have in front of us now. Corey and his wife pretty much bought this house and said, this is a great house to really let investigators, paranormal researchers, to really kind of go in and see for themselves that these hauntings occur. Now, Jacqueline Nunez, a real estate developer from Boston, purchased the property on May 26th of 2022. A condition of the purchase was that no one lived here full-time as a protection for the buyer, since the energy is so powerful. Now, Jacqueline does not believe the energy is inherently evil. She intends to continue to allow paranormal investigations, and she is very interested in learning from the activity here to help all of us understand and know that we are conscious beings having a human experience, and our consciousness will continue after death. The King Philip's War and other theories for the activity. These are just theories. Hauntings can be caused by numerous things. In this case, perhaps the cause of these haunting in this location, there was a war fought in the majority of the state back in 1675 to 1677, known as the King Philip's War, caused over land disputes. It was fought between the colonists and the local Native American tribes. The Nipmuc Indians lived on this and surrounding land for thousands of years before colonists even began to come over and start taking their land. In this war, more people died per capita than any other war fought on U.S. soil. Another reason is probably not talked about much because the majority of deaths were women and children on both sides. So there was a lot of females and children killed during this time on both sides. It was a very, very bloody war. Besides the war, it is theorized that there is geological conditions on the property that are conducive and have enabled spirits and entities to manifest and engage with people. These geological conditions have yet to be fully explored, but can include the aquifer that is beneath the house and perhaps some electromagnetic anomalies. Present-day activity and beliefs. There continues to be much activity in the home. Numerous paranormal investigators and several mediums have researched and communicated with spirits here. Based upon these investigations, here is what is presently believed. There are spirits who reside here permanently. We do not know completely yet who they are. There is an older, tall man, a Quaker, who wears a hat that seems to be there permanently. Oliver Richardson, a child who April Perron played with, seems to be there a lot. There are also numerous and different spirits that visit the house but do not necessarily stay a long time. It is believed that there are multiple portals that allow spirits to visit that allow cross-dimensional experiences. The energy, attitudes, beliefs you have will amplify at this property. You may very well attract energy and entities that others visiting may not. Be careful. There is no guarantee that you will experience anything. Spirits have free will and do not appear on command. All right, so in the book written by Andrea Perron, House of Darkness, House of Light, it is shared that Andrea had a very interesting and rationalization that there is a kind of cross-dimensional experience. She had a cross-dimensional experience. She is in this back room where in the upload that I will do next, that will be the finale to my Conjuring visit, she was in the back room, which I called the dining room. Off to the side is a kitchen, and off to the side of that is a bathroom. She's standing back there, and she goes to go into the seance room, which is that middle room. And as she's walking into that area, she crosses over into the hallway where the stairwell is. And she stops, and she sees two couples dressed in very ancient clothing, colonial or Puritan clothing. and they're eating. These two couples are eating. They're having a dinner. The men look up and they make a visual contact with Andrea. Andrea and these men look at each other. And at that point, Andrea Perron states that she at that point realizes that she's the ghost in this realm at that point. So it's a cross-dimensional kind of, these spirits that are eating their dinner are in one dimension, and Andrea Perron crosses into that dimension, and they see her, and they look at her like she's the spirit, and yet she's looking at them as the spirit. So there is a lot of really fascinating history and truths to this home and this property. There is really honestly no need to make up lies about the property or any people who lived there. Because honestly, truth is scarier than fiction. Yes, it's creepy that, someone said that Bathsheba Sherman was a witch and she killed children. She didn't. She lost 2 of her own children, probably to, I don't even know, but something that we have vaccines for now. But she was given a good Christian burial, and she was never accused of being a bad person. And yes, the Warrens did come uninvited by the Perron family, but invited by the Pyro team. And they were asked to leave. The Perron family was not saved by the Warrens. So there's another dispelled lie. So here are some of the truths and histories of this property. And the next upload that I share with you about this will be my night at the Conjuring home doing my own paranormal investigation. That is tonight's upload. I hope you all enjoyed it. And I want to thank you for all of your support. It really does mean the world to me. And I just thought that it was time that people really heard the truths about the Conjuring house. Now, may the Great Spirit watch over all of us, and may He guide us down that path that we call life.